get ready to start the next part of our program, I want to welcome everybody to the city of Douglasville and to Davis Park. A couple of people I'll introduce in just a minute, but let's return thanks for our food. Father God in heaven, we thank you for this time of togetherness. We thank you for all of your blessings. We thank you for this food we've had. Now may the food nourishment our bodies, and may we seek always to be good public service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Again, thank you for being here. I've got several remarks that I'll be making, but in just a minute I'm going to ask the mayor to come up because I know he's got another engagement to go to, and so we'll get him to come out and do a couple of welcoming comments. Mr. Mayor, when you get ready, just come on up. But this is a building that was built with CDBG funding assistance about a decade ago. Charles Thomas is our director of Davis Park. Charles is a native of Douglasville and has worked for the city for a number of years, and we appreciate the job that he does. And I'll be introducing a couple of other people in just a minute. But to my colleagues is city managers and county managers, myself and Assistant City Manager Marcia Hampton want to welcome you and appreciate you coming all the way from ARC and everything. So, Mr. Mayor, you want to come on up a minute, and then I will make a couple of other comments before I introduce Bennett Oliver.
Thank you, Bill, and I do want to personally, and then also as mayor on behalf of the city of Douglasville's elected officials, welcome you. And they asked me, and some of your elected officials asked me if I would attend and participate in this meeting to ensure that y'all would not talk about your elected officials. I'm sure that never happens. I've talked with Mr. Osborne about it on numerous occasions, and he hasn't divulged whether that happens or not, but I'm sure that it doesn't. But I do want to thank you for coming and participating here in the city at this event. We in no way can rival, I believe it was your last meeting that you had up in Bartow County. We can no way rival the 1,800-acre display for, I believe is it Lakefront or Lake Point? Lake Point. And we're certainly excited for you to hear about the growth and development that you're going to have up there in your area, because I know that it will certainly benefit your community. And then hopefully there might be a little spillover down here, and if you run out of rooms or places for eat, just to send them on down our way. But we do have something that city manager and staff are excited about, as well as myself and our elected officials, and that is the partnership that we have had with Google in the past several months. They moved into our community probably 6-7 years ago, and it was almost like they weren't here for a while. But they explained to us the reason for that was they wanted to make sure that they had all of the security in place and that they could certainly have that facility up and running and protected as it needs to be. And going to the facility, it's almost like getting into Fort Knox. They're very serious about the security and the protection of data that they gather and keep on probably each and every one of us that use Google. But what you're going to see today is a part of that partnership with Google and what they've done to help us help our citizens in this community. One of the things when I was campaigning, it was mentioned to me that what would like to be seen over here would be some tutorial programs and some after-school programs and some internet access. And I got into a little conversation about that and said, well, you know, the parents certainly can tutor and whatnot. There were some comments made about the educational levels not being sufficient to help the kids with some of the work that they're engaged in at school right now. So once I became elected, city staff, myself, and the elected officials worked to improve on what we can provide to the students and the kids, as well as the adults out of this park facility. You're going to see a little bit about what we're going to be able to do today when you see the computer lab that we have been able to develop through the partnership with Google. So we're very excited about it. We're excited to have you here, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Osborne now to talk to you about the program. And I'm not going to stay long because I've got to attend another meeting, so y'all feel free to talk about us. So glad to have you. You're in good hands. And our staff, one brief thing, I was asking our Parks Director, Bennett Oliver, a little bit about some of the equipment over there. And one of them, there's 2 monitors and there's 1 device. And I was asking him how they're going to be able to do all this. And he was telling me about, well, the teacher can look at 1 monitor while the student's doing something else. And I said, can you do that? He said, no. And I said, well, I can't either. So, but we're going to have the people that are able to do that, and it's going to be a great learning tool for the citizens and the youth in this community, and we're just excited to have it, excited to have the partnership, and glad to have you here today and let us showcase and brag a little bit. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm going to ask Bennett Oliver, our Parks and Rec Director, to come up. Nathan Todd in our IT department, with however y'all are planning to do this, and then Bennett, if you would, when you and Nathan get through, if you will introduce Charles Askett of Google, and we'll have that presentation. I see I get to do the closing comments, which means I'm going to try to remember as we go along what didn't get covered that should have been covered. And between Marcia and myself, we'll make sure that we cover a couple of things maybe as we close. But again, thank y'all for being here. And Bennett, we'll turn it over to you.
Wanted to welcome everyone to Jessie Davis Park and the Alice Hawthorne Center, all the city managers and county. I see Mr. Linton back there. We're very proud of our city manager and assistant city manager here. Well, both of them are young, energetic, and this facility looks new, but as Bill said, it was built in 2002, and we do give credit to Charles Thomas. He's the center manager here. He's been here from day one, and this is a great facility. The city has several corporate sponsors, but none of those have been as generous as Google over the last 2 years. It started, as the mayor said, with us wanting to get Wi-Fi access around our new conference center downtown. After several meetings, Google came out and suggested that we do the whole downtown area, and that we also give Wi-Fi access to our 2 major parks, which is Hunter Park and Jessie Davis Park. And it's pretty impressive when you look at Hunter Park is 89 acres and Jessie Davis Park is 17 acres. And not only did they do both community centers, but they also did 2 athletics complexes, so you're able to get on Wi-Fi at any location. Last year, Google also donated 100 Nexus 7 tablets to the Parks and Recreation Department. We've installed several of those over at Hunter Park, and we're using 16 of those here at Jessie Davis Park. In January of 2013, the city applied for a Google Data Center Communities Affair grant for $25,500. And in April of that year, we were notified that we would receive those funds. And those funds have to be used for our computer lab, which we'll visit in a couple of minutes, I guess. And basically, we've got about 12 of the tablets installed there, and then we have 8 regular computers. And I'm not going into the technical end of it, but Nathan here is with our IT department, and he's going to kind of tell you a little bit about the hardware that's in there. But this is a great opportunity, especially for this park. We have an apartment complex that sits at the perimeter of our park, and we also have a large subdivision behind here. And this is really a community center where a lot of kids walk to the center, and the computer lab is going to be a great opportunity for some tutoring after school and people to come just to get internet access. So Nathan, if you'll tell them a little bit about the hardware that you've installed.
I As Bennett said, we're working with a $25,000 grant, so part of the deal is to make this computer lab work as efficient as possible. Use a cheaper equipment that, well, not as much cheaper, but a lower cost equipment, and make it as IT staff independent as possible so that we're not constantly coming over here to fix things for the public and general use. We're using thin clients in the lab that tie back to City Hall through the Google Wi-Fi. That's really made a lot of this easy for us to deal with. We have a slower data connection here at Hunter Park for city staff usage, and the Wi-Fi has made the connection back to City Hall much better for the public. So we're piggybacking on both of those connections for the computer lab here and the tablets out at Hunter Park. So we've got a lab next door, like Bennett said, with 8 stations. They've got a full Windows desktop that they can browse the internet. They can use any office product they need to use, homework. As tutoring gets going on, we've got stations set up so that the teacher and student can sit side by side, so both of them have a full view of what's going on and are fully able to work out anything they need to see and do. And we're pretty proud of the way things have gone. We've used products that are less likely to be stolen and are secured in ways that make them less easy to be stolen. Not that we think these things will last here long, and if they are damaged, they're not as hard to replace as some of the more expensive equipment we use in City Hall for city staff. So we're pretty impressed with the way things have worked out.
I'm sure they're basketball proof also.
Absolutely. Cracks, but we won't be too heavy on that.
Yeah. Once again, we want to thank Google for being a great partner. And today we have a Google representative here. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Charles Asik.
Well, my name is Charles Asik. I'm an engineer at Google. So thanks everyone for inviting me here to talk for a little bit. So Kelly and Marcia invited me out here, and they wanted me to give a little overview of some of the things we're doing, especially around our Google Apps tools and our productivity tools. And these are tools that are used by a lot of students out there, like K through 12s, a lot of higher education as well. At last count, 70 or so of the top universities are actually running their email and their productivity software on Google Apps, and as well as city, local governments, federal government departments, and even large businesses are adopting these tools as well. So these are an alternative set of tools to things that you may use in the past, like Outlook and Office and SharePoint and Lotus Notes and tools like that you may be familiar with. So just to give you a quick overview, wanted to start out with the cloud, right? The cloud is really one of the most overused terms in the media today. Anybody out there have any idea what the cloud is? No? Yep. Anybody want to volunteer to tell me what the cloud is? Nope. All right. Is anybody? Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about Google Drive. But yeah, Google Drive is in the cloud. So, what about where is the cloud? Right? No. Everywhere. Yeah. Well, turns out cloud's your neighbor, right? So Google has our data center in Douglas County, and we had this is a little funny article that was written about us in Wired, very flattering picture of a toilet, talking about our partnership with the county around using, I think it's called gray water for cooling our computers there. But the cloud is a shared computing infrastructure, so you think about lots and lots of computers, hundreds, thousands, of computers networked together, and you access these computers over the internet. And that could be through your browser, it could be through your mobile apps, right, on your iPhones and your iPads and your Android phones. And really the cloud is what's powering a lot of how we work today and a lot of how we are social today and how we communicate. The cloud is what ties all these devices together and allows everything to sync together and work seamlessly. And just to compare that, it's a relatively new concept that maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, that technology at home is probably better today than you have in the workplace, right? It's not typically a big stretch. People at home have, iPhones, iPads, they have, Xboxes. And in the office, you're typically using older technology. And when you access things today, it's not as easy to find your information in the office as it is at home, right? At home, you check out your phone, you look on the internet, right? You open up your browser. In the office, you might have to VPN, you might have to send yourself a copy, you have to think about, am I going to work at home or am I going to work, in the office? So, when designing these tools, we decided, well, it shouldn't matter, right? We'll take these consumer tools that you use at home, at work, when you're traveling, and we'll bring them to the workplace. And, same thing as how do you find things today? So in a work setting, a lot of times you store your files in your email, or you might upload it to a shared drive, or you might put it in, a file server or a shared team site, right? So you have to think about, where are my things and how do I find them and where should I go looking for this piece of information? Whereas, in your personal life, you search for it, right? You go and you type it in Google and tell you pretty much anything, any answer in the world is, typing it in a couple of keystrokes in a search box, or even on your phone, you can even ask it a question without even typing anything in. So how do we bring this technology, to organizations, to workplaces, so that it's easy to find stuff. You don't spend half your day looking for things. And also collaboration. A lot of the tools that we use today are based on individual productivity. So heads down, like one person, one computer, one document. I create a document, I churn it out, and I distribute it. And a lot of that's really just an adaptation of how people always did things, right? It's from the typewriter to the computer. So, and that involves a lot of things like, coming up with your document, copying and pasting, emailing it to people, getting people's revisions and changes, and then having to copy and paste and merge things together. And it's not an efficient way of working, right? It's not how typically people are built to work together, is, having to exchange and copy and paste and merge things together. And that's really what Google Apps and Google Docs and Google Drive is made to address, and that's the ability to have this real-time collaboration and single source of the truth in your documents, not only when you're sitting in front of your computer, but also when you're out of the office, right? So this is actually a screenshot of our products. We have a cell phone over here, a smartphone, and we have a browser over there, and then this is a document where if we have notes for our meeting, right? So if we're working on a document or a proposal, I create the document, I share it, I give people access to it, and then they can come in and start working on it. And clearly, the number of times they're going to have 5 people in a document is not that high, but there's a tremendous value in not having to have revisions, not having to merge changes, not having to click a save button, right? So there's no save button up there anywhere, because every time you type a keystroke, it's saved. And that's, these are the types of scenarios that the cloud powers. So every time you're opening these documents, you're typing it in, the cloud is synchronizing your phone to your browser, to your laptop, to your tablet. And it's really, it's hard to wrap your mind around it at first, but it powers a different way of working. Also in spreadsheets, think about all the various departments that might manage budgets, right? And how you have to roll those budgets up into, a master spreadsheet eventually, and have the finances even out at the end of the day. Well, having this real-time access, having the sharing capabilities in Google Sheets here, everything happens automatically, right? Single source of the truth. Also, it's the concept of being social around your documents. So, everybody's familiar with Facebook, right? I'm sure a lot of you have a Facebook account, or a, Twitter account, or an Instagram account. All these social things that are sprouting up out there in the consumer world of making it so that computers are empowering you to stay connected with your friends. Well, bringing those to the workplace is super powerful as well. You know, giving you the capabilities of being social around a document. So if I open up a document, you know, and I want to tag, you know, a comment to somebody, or if I want to reply to a comment, and this is what Google Docs is empowering you to do, is being social around a document, so that, you know, I'm commenting, I'm tagging, I'm doing all those things I do in my personal life, but in a work sense. And it really makes sense to make work more social, because humans are social, right? And that's how we get things done. So this is our suite of tools. This slide is specifically focused on government, but it's essentially the same, and it's really almost the same as your consumer world. So anybody that goes and gets a Google account can use any of these tools. The difference is in an organizational setting, you know, in a government setting, in a business setting, in an educational setting, there's policies, controls wrapped around these tools so that you can do things like satisfy freedom of information requests, right? So do searches on them, set policies around what you can and cannot do, and around sharing of information and keeping it secure, things like that. It's really everything from Gmail, so the communication pieces, the messaging pieces up at the top. Google Drive is what I focused on today, so that's our collaboration tool. It's your ability to have your My Documents in the cloud that are accessed everywhere. You can have a Google Drive app on your iPhone, Google Drive app on your Android phone. You can open up any browser, any PC or Mac that has a browser. You can get to all of the stuff from the browser, and it's instantly synced across your devices. Google Calendar, Google Hangouts is our instant messaging tool. Sites, groups, and Docs are a collaboration suite there. So really, that's my presentation that I have for you. Any questions on this so far? No?
When you say that, go back to the government,
Yep.
like on the drive and stuff, is there a limit on the storage?
Yeah, so there's a default where you get, you know, I think it's 30 gigabytes per person, you know, per user on the system. It's the default. And you can buy more, I think up to 16 terabytes per person. Yeah. So, anybody have more than 16 terabyte inbox? No? You're doing something wrong if you do, I think. Yeah, so I mean, my goal today wasn't to make this a sales pitch. It was to more show you the things that the cloud empowers, and show you, you know, the tools that are in it. And I know that Kelly is familiar with a lot of the stuff and is kind of working on a pilot program with that. And we have lots of both federal governments, state governments, and local governments using these tools. Could be for, you know, for cost savings reasons and overall enhancing productivity and collaboration. All right. Unless there's any other questions, I appreciate the chance to come and speak with you today, and look forward to the continued partnership with Douglasville, Douglas County.